Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Game Awards.
As a game developer, programmer, and most importantly a gamer, I love it when we can all come together and celebrate a shared passion. Making games is hard, a statement that can never be undersold or understood by those not in the space. So when we have the opportunity to gather and recognize all those who make it happen, it's important to take it seriously because if we don't, well, who will? The Game Awards recognizes and upholds creative and technical excellence in the global video game industry. Or at least that's what it states what it's all about on the homepage of the website. According to its goals, it's trying to bring together a diverse group of game developers, game players, and notable names from popular culture to celebrate and advance gaming's position as the most immersive, challenging, and inspiring form of entertainment. A wonderful goal to aspire to. Though, now that the 10th year of the Game Awards has come and gone, it's important to ask the question, did it? For those of you who've been living under a rock, the Game Awards is an annual award show hosted by Jeff Keighley, and I think it's important to start looking at these awards a bit more critically in terms of what it sets out to be, what it means to the industry as a whole, and where it stands at the end of the day. And to that point, I think it's important to lay out something simple. This is not a hit piece, it's a critique. Although there's a major outcry in the community at the moment with how poorly it's been received by devs, the focus of this video isn't to condemn the awards for all its mistakes, but to look back on it and offer constructive criticism on where it can improve. I don't hold a vendetta towards Jeff, nor do I know the guy, so I'm not going to focus on him really or his obvious bromance towards Kojima that I've seen so many people comment on. At the end of the day, he's a driving factor for why these awards can even be hosted in the first place with his industry pull and passion. He should be held accountable for the state of the awards, absolutely, and it will only be held at that. Secondly, there's one more thing I'd like to address, and that's the large community stance towards any dev or person advocating for critique or change towards the awards. I often read on Twitter something along the lines of, if you want devs to receive more focus, you should make your own awards, or there's always the DICE Awards for you if you want that as well. And although the latter response is valid, it completely ignores the lasting impact and importance of the Game Awards. Even if you're the most cynical of sorts, you can't deny that the Game Awards are multiple magnitudes bigger than any and all award shows tailored towards games in the world. Like it or hate it, the Game Awards are the most forward-facing representation of the gaming industry with the vast majority of people. And as that face, it has the honor, but most importantly, responsibility to represent the industry in the best way it can. That doesn't mean compromising what it is naturally, but it also shouldn't mean practically shunning what it represents. The awards have so much good to them that gets absolutely drowned out by a ton it doesn't need to do and a lot it needs to adapt to and change. I think it's very telling that one of the best parts about the Game Awards was the beginning, right here. Jeff shouting out the many names and big figures in the crowd that not only help build this industry but are also continuing to help it thrive. That's what it should be about.
Great games comfort us, help us understand different perspectives on the world, and maybe even change us. That's what makes this medium different. Games, the actual things we play, are insanely special, and we're gonna celebrate that for the next few hours. And we've got such an amazing group of people with us. They're built by talented creators and teams, and many of them are here tonight. Mr. Anuma, Mr. Fujibayashi, great to see you back after winning Game of the Year in 2017 for Breath of the Wild. Good luck tonight. One of our industry's greatest creative and technical forces, Mark Cerny, PlayStation's lead system architect, celebrating 25 years of Cerny games. Thank you for being here, Mark. Of course, the team behind Pizza Towers here, too. Everyone's here. Melina Jurgens, our best performance winner in 2017 for Hellblade. Welcome. I think we'll be seeing you a little bit later tonight. And we are also honored to be joined by the Tujimoto family, Haru and Ryozo, who are celebrating 40 years of Capcom this year and a Game of the Year nomination for Resident Evil. Welcome, guys. It's so great to have you with us. Now, we have a big show, so let's get right into it.
It's me, Sydney Goodman, here to greet you all at what consider to be my favorite holiday of the season, the 2023 Game Awards. And just like New Year's Eve, our Game Awards opening act is as full of excitement and celebration as the big event.
When looking at the Game Awards holistically, I think it's only right to start at the beginning, the very beginning. And I feel like it's important to ask, what's the point of the opening act? For those not privy, the opening act is a 30-minute pre-show before the actual Game Awards hosted by Sydney Goodman. During it, they hand out a couple of awards, show a few world premieres, and play a whole bunch of ads. This might seem like a minor gripe for a seemingly harmless pre-show, but this 30-minute before the show actual show opening is a part of one of the biggest issues the show has to offer, and that's this looming implication that some things are more important than others, and nothing speaks to it more than this little show. An opening act is defined as a performance that serves to warm up the audience, making it appropriately excited and enthusiastic for the headliner, and that right there is the problem. Why during a night of celebration is there an opening act and a headliner? Not only does this pre-show offer little to nothing in terms of production and a complete waste of time, more than that in a second, putting anything in the pre-show as opposed to the actual show creates an implicit statement that everything you see in the pre-show is of less importance than the main show. Why else would you place it in the pre-show as opposed to the actual show after all? This goes for advertisements, game announcements, but most importantly awards. Why is Best Family Game arguably a very important aspect of the industry, as it's most people's gateway into gaming in the first place, a pre-show award? Why are you bringing Doug Bowser, one of the main figures at Nintendo, on stage to give his acceptance speech on behalf of all of Nintendo on the side stage? Why is innovation and accessibility a pre-show award before everybody is even seated in the theater to appreciate it? Is accessibility not important in the medium where interaction with media is key? Followed by a trailer for a Harmonium game, a game that arguably pairs wonderfully with the award? No matter what excuse you give for shoving literally anything in the opening act as opposed to the actual show, the fact of the matter remains this is supposed to be a night of celebration, and making anything feel less significant than another award is just absolutely ridiculous. Now, the opening act is relatively harmless otherwise outside of how it's being utilized, and if you must include it, there are a couple of things that pop into my mind that you could do with it almost immediately. The first being, you could just use it as a pure and 100% ad dump. A lot of the casual audiences are here for the trailers in the first place, and so offloading a lot of trailers at the beginning will get those people excited, give them a couple of world premieres so they can go, wow, if they're showing this during the pre-show, I can't wait to see what they'll show during the actual show. This serves the purpose of giving you more time during the actual show to give out more awards and be more celebratory towards the actual devs, as well as giving the people who are here for the trailers a nice teaser to keep them actually interested in the rest of the show. Another thing you could do is you could do something akin to a red carpet event. Stop a few devs on the way in and get them to talk about a few things. You could get some of the nominees, give them a chance and a spotlight to thank all the people for even giving them a chance to be nominated, so when they inevitably go 07, they'll have to post their thanks on Twitter shortly after. Wouldn't it have been cool if they pulled Sven Vinke off to the side to ask him about why he decided to wear a suit of armor? He could have used that opportunity to talk about how it's a tribute to his fan base, and it would have been a very great moment. You could also as well use this to tee up various world premieres. Get a dev to talk a little bit about what the awards mean to them, how excited they are to watch the show, and then they could tee it up to show an early world premiere trailer on the spot. The point of these suggestions is to try and make the pre-show more interactive and engaging. Right now, it's just Sydney Goodman on the side stage talking to a void and reading off a bunch of predetermined ads. And don't get me wrong, she's a very great host, but I feel like they're not only wasting her talents, but also wasting the time of the viewer to actually get to the main show that people really care about. If you're going to include a pre-show, you have to get people to care about the pre-show. Otherwise, its purpose is meaningless. But it continues to get worse for awards actually shown during this opening act. Another thing that was quickly rushed through were all of the Esports Awards. Now, the esports categories are a bit of a mixed bag in my opinion, and I feel like it needs to be stated that I thoroughly enjoy watching esports actually. I saw all of Worlds watching T1 stop JDG's Golden Road and all 4 China seeds on the way to Faker's 4th Worlds title. Enjoyed watching EG go from a knife kill with the sub coach on MIBR all the way to winning champs with a roster no one saw coming. Saw the Bulldog with New York stomp Ultra at champs after a bit of trash talk from their rookies. Watched the CEO cement TSM's legacy at ALGS. Experienced Zywoo hoist the final CSGO major. And even watched Void win and lose the greatest gamer award in a single night. Needless to say, I've been an esports enjoyer for a long time now, and its importance to gaming can never be understated. With that being said, Esports Awards at the Game Awards are bad and don't represent the space at all. Right now, there are 5 esports categories of best esports game, athlete, team, coach, and event, which is just lazy. Each and every esports has its own unique players, stories, and style. To combine every single one of them into categories to be pitted against one another is just ridiculous. How do you even value what's a better esport game? Any game can be an esport with the right community behind it, just look at Melee. How do you value one coach over another? Potter was my clear choice, but for the most part, that's because I didn't have a frame of reference for the others. How do you put one athlete's achievement over another? Yeah, Faker's the GOAT with 4 Worlds titles, but he wasn't even the best player on his team this year, let alone in League of Legends esports. Why does he deserve it over somebody else? How is his miracle run considered better than somebody like Demon 1, who was a complete rookie winning the biggest tournament of the year and arguably being more instrumental in that win? Are we valuing just mechanical talent? Because Hal's shot calling was absolutely integral to TSM's quick decision making and wins resulting in his LGS win. I'm not going to get into the weeds of things of the who should have won what award argument, because this is a night of celebration and anybody who gets nominated has the potential and should win, and if they did, that's great. But what I think the Esports Awards fails at is capturing the essence of what makes them great, as well as what should be celebrated. The esports categories is a greater symptom of the issue with the types of categories we have for awards in general, but I'm not going to get into that just yet. For now, I'm going to focus on the aspect of the fact that these awards are being crammed into a pre-show and tossed aside with no pomp and circumstance or even an award-winning speech from any of the representatives in there. And from there, I think it's important to move on to one of the biggest problems of all, the format.
Congratulations, Neil. Great speech and short, so thank you. There are lots more awards to come, but now it's time to look ahead to what you'll be playing next. Let's get to those world premieres.
I think it's not an overstatement to claim that the Game Awards is one of the best formats for any award show ever in theory. I think it's brilliant to combine spectacle, world premieres, and celebration to create a show and night where everyone that has a love for games has something to tune in for. You'll be hard pressed to find something that gives you all 3 of those things, let alone a combination of any of the 2. And I think it's fair to say that the show does a good job of even some of the combinations of the ideas. One aspect I really enjoyed was a combo of the musical numbers transitioning into one of the advertisements for a new world premiere trailer. Something I've seen in other shows, sure, but that made the premiere more memorable for me personally. They also combined spectacle and awards in one of the biggest awards of the year in the Game of the Year, an orchestral chorale combining main themes for each and every nominee and a spectacle that birthed the star of the flute god himself while adding greater prestige and celebration for the greatest games of the year. Even combining the less desirable ads with a nice pairing with an award that should represent it, like the aforementioned Harmonium coming right after the Innovation and Accessibility Award. In theory, this is one of the strongest formats you could craft for a celebration like this, which makes talking about the way they execute it all the more disappointing. I think each aspect of the show that they added in terms of presentation, advertisements, world premieres, live shows, and awards is nice and all. However, the lean in which they give attention to these aspects are completely wrong, if not completely backwards. One of the biggest outcries in the dev community were the absolutely lopsided focus on advertisements as opposed to the attention on the awards. And I'll just outright say it, I don't give a fuck if you came here for the trailers. Guess what? Game devs are gamers too, and we also look forward to the reveal trailers as well. However, for as long as Jeff labels this show as the Game Awards, they should always be treated as such. Under no circumstances should a 3.5-hour show dedicate over an hour and a half to advertisements and trailers, whilst winner speeches get only around 10 minutes. According to attendees, after 30 seconds during a winner speech, this now infamous meme was displayed to shoo winners off the stage just as quickly as they got there. Though, even if you didn't know this was happening, it was painfully obvious due to the fact that they started playing what I'm labeling as the get the fuck off the stage music before devs even got through thanking a few people.
Wow. Thank you so much. The team from Geometric couldn't make it out tonight, but they wanted us to pass along their thanks for everyone who played and voted for Cocoon. And to Yeppe, Mads, and Jakob, and everyone at the team at Geometric, thank you so much for being such a wonderful partner on this game. Thank you.
The Geometric team also wanted to thank they were honored to be nominated with all the awesome studios in this category. We can't wait to see what you guys do next. Thank you.
The advertisements, presenters, and trailers should be making room for the awards, not the other way around. I remember during my viewing, Anthony Mackie walked up on stage to give out the Best Ongoing Game Award, more on why that's ridiculous in a minute, before 30 minutes of pure advertisement played between that and the next award, which was Best Adaptation. Even if you're only here for the trailers, this amount of downtime is insane for an award show. There's hardly any celebration to being force-fed ads and trailers with no downtime in between. Not to mention, I feel like delivering ads and trailers on this scale is just bad for the crowd that comes for them. The Game Awards is a big night, and I feel like layering every trailer under the sun on it dilutes the impact of them by a ton. I much prefer the kinds of advertisements that come from a dev on stage who gets to talk about their projects before showing it off during a trailer. It makes them a lot more personal, and seeing the excitement of somebody showing off their art to the world will never get old. As opposed to seeing the 4th Fortnite trailer being dumped in the mix of trailers that you can in favor of bigger in-person reveals. With the mix of the musical number ads to really add impact into them, those other awards feel kinda worthless in comparison. The former trailers feel like much more of the celebratory vibe than some big brand tossing a random trailer in the mix of other trailers, or getting some random movie celebrity that voice acted one forgettable character to talk about the game they had very little to do with. I understand the need for advertisements during the awards, after all, it pays the bills, but they have no reason to be so heavy-handed with them. During the show, there were 3 commercial breaks with just raw ads in them and no presenter, which would make sense if it's for TV, but it's not. The only purpose of them is to play advertisements, so why not utilize them for that purpose and cull out the rest of the random ads during the show? You could even make one of them an indie showcase of sorts and show off all the exciting indie games from teams that couldn't make it to the show in person. In fact, I'd also argue that the overabundance of ads makes the pacing of the show awful. There was so much during the night that I just simply couldn't care about them because the mind-numbing info dumps of trailer after trailer diluted each and every one that came after the next. Advertisements and world premieres should enhance the show, not fill them up. And you can tell, halfway through the show you realize that hardly any awards have even been given out. Jeff constantly saying something along the lines of, "We've got so much more to show you," again and again, only for him to show up during the 3rd hour to speed run through 5 awards in under 2 minutes, only to do it again and again. That's called a pacing issue, and it casually ruins the show with a completely avoidable problem. The format is strong, but the execution is awful, and it needs to find a balance.
That's Rise of the Ronin coming to PlayStation in 2024. And now it is time to announce winners in a number of other categories. Here are the nominees for Best Action Game. Armored Core 6, Fires of Rubicon. Dead Island 2, Ghost Runner 2, Hi-Fi Rush, and Remnant 2. And the Game Award goes to Armored Core 6, Fires of Rubicon. Congratulations from.
This is unreal. I just wanted to say, I know I don't have much time. But I'll give it a shot. Thank you so very, very much for everybody that voted. Thank my incredible fellow actors and the nominees, unbelievable talent. To be even considered amongst you is extraordinary, so thank you very much indeed. To Swen, to Larian, to all the writers, to Stephen Rooney, the writer of Astarion, I'm going to forget everybody. To Pit Stop, who worked so hard, the directors, my fellow actors, 248 incredible actors that gave it heart and soul. To mi familia, gracias para todos. Gracias, solete gracias, y Coco también. And to my agents, I will thank you later. I'm sorry, I'm going to wrap it up apparently. One thing I will say, please, if that's okay, the community has reached out to so many of us at Larian and said they were seen and they were represented by this game when they lost hope, they felt isolated, they felt alone, and this game brought them together and gave them something to push through to help them all. And to you, I want to say thank you so much for seeing us. Appreciate it. You're not alone in this. None of us are. Thank you.
As alluded to from talking about the formatting issues, the Game Awards seems to have an almost disdain towards the actual awards sections of the show. If the 30-second victory speech wasn't already a big enough sign of things, the award show does something I casually mentioned a few times before that's almost downright insidious. The Game Awards implies importance in another fairly damning way that honestly should go as fast as humanly possible. If you didn't catch this before, they give out two types of awards, and the types don't differ in terms of significance, but instead differ in the way they're presented. There are the normal awards, which follows the bread and butter of every award show. A presenter comes on stage, speaks for a bit, talks about the importance of the award before a video plays announcing the category, the nominees, and of course the winner. Naturally, the winner gets to come on stage and give a speech before being kicked off with the next whatever happens after. These are what I've dubbed as stage awards. The second type of award I've dubbed as an ad read award. This is when the host, usually Jeff, goes on a side stage, quickly lists off the category, the nominees, and then the winner unceremoniously before saying congrats and moving on to another award, or worst of all, an advertisement. If you couldn't tell by those descriptions, at no point in time are ad read awards in an award show a good thing. The fact that there are two different ways of handling the giving out of awards implies some sort of hierarchy, that the awards that get the attention are more important than the awards that couldn't even be bothered by the award show to even be graced with being handed the actual trophy itself, much less given the time to revel in it like their peers on an actual stage. The saddest part of this though is that 10 categories got the privilege of being a stage award, leaving 21 winners to practically be tossed their trophy off stage without even a second spare to do what the award set out to do and celebrate their achievements. Is Best Fighting Game less important than Best Game Adaptation? The Game Awards seems to think so. Are the people that play and promote games in Best Content Creator less important than the actors that voice act in Best Performance? According to the Game Awards, yes. With that aside, I don't think any one category should be shoved off to the side to make room for showtime, as each and every aspect deserves its time in the spotlight. These ad read categories are there to make sure the 3-hour runtime is well spent, but in reality it's the exact opposite. At the end of the day, the show should be making room for these awards, not the other way around. I think it's very telling that even with a very limited amount of stage time, Jeff thinks it's more important to praise aspects that are more akin to movies and TV shows than actual games itself. Even if there are only a limited number of spots to give moments of praise, I think these awards should almost never be chosen over genre awards, mostly because they praise the individual rather than the collaborative effort of the dev team itself. One thing I'd like to touch on briefly is the lack of representation in terms of the categories for the awards themselves, which is something I mentioned prior to how the Esports Awards were handled. I also think that this issue is grander and goes on to most of the categories presented as well. Now, unlike my previous critiques, I don't have a solution or answer for this yet, and I think I need a little bit more time to think about it, and might save it for a future video, but I'd like to at least take the moment to acknowledge it. This year and last, I went around and asked a bunch of people I know if they watched the Game Awards, some devs and some not, and surprisingly, I got a high amount of no's from all parties involved. One of the most interesting things about it was, from the non-devs, I asked a follow-up question of why didn't they, and the reason they gave was, the games I played tend to not be represented during the awards. I got this answer especially from a lot of the people that tend to play indie games as opposed to the most popular genres, and the Game Awards attempts to circumvent this feeling with the Players' Voice Awards. Unlike the other awards, this one's unique in that it's 100% voted on by the fans themselves. Through an open bracket of 30 individual games, a game has to go through 3 rounds before eventually being chosen to represent the award. A brilliant idea in theory, though where this fails is in the execution as expected. For one, the Game Awards simply flat out does not care about this award from the get-go, explicitly stating that this award isn't important enough to garner an acceptance speech on the actual page itself. Which is ludicrous, seeing as this game is the only game that requires complete fan consensus to win. One could argue that this is just a glorified popularity contest, and honestly most awards are, but the winner this year was Baldur's Gate 3. Although this game received critical praise this year, I highly doubt most of the fans of the game can name a single game outside of Baldur's Gate 3 that Larian Studios made. It went off of being a great game and a great game alone, especially since it also beat out Marvel Spider-Man 2, which I would argue has a much larger fan base off the Spidey brand alone. I think the only award gifted to by the fans deserves a speech over a random adaptation award granted by critics and media that don't even cover movies or television to begin with. The awards categories needs a vast cleanup on how they're treated, presented, and overall crafted going forward, else they should just stop calling this an award show to begin with altogether.
We have been saying it all night, but it really has been an outstanding year for gaming. And now to talk about some of the biggest games, it's a pleasure to welcome from the Muppets, that's right, the great Gonzo.
Oh, thank you. Hey, Jeff. It's great to be here. Hello, everybody.
The Game Awards is first and foremost a show dedicated to celebrate gaming. So why during its 10th year does it seem to be almost embarrassed to show anyone involved in the process? Celebrity cameos have been a bane in industry-focused shows since the dawn of time, and it's hardly something the TGA's cooked up naturally. But unlike those other shows, the balance between devs and celebrities is consistently lopsided. I was shocked Anthony Mackie was still hanging around, but brushed it aside, making the excuse to myself that, oh, he's probably going to be presenting Best Adaptation. Only for him to turn around and give out Best Ongoing Game, which really made me head scratch and think, we couldn't have found any long-standing dev to hand this out? Now, I don't think the celebrity cameos were as bad as people stated, but I do think the show leaned on them a bit too much in certain aspects. Captain America should not be handing out Best Ongoing Game when he has absolutely nothing to do with the award itself. Willy Wonka should not be handing out the Game of the Year award. I think these choices are a bit tone deaf, and especially weird considering they already had the blueprint earlier in the show with how Christopher Judge, the winner of last year's Best Performance Award, gave it out again this year. The presenter should always try to reflect the award itself, I think. But it goes deeper than that. Something I also noticed during my viewing is it took almost an hour to get an actual game dev on stage to even speak. And when they did, it was Ed Boon giving out Best Narrative. Now, you may not know who the father of Mortal Kombat is, but he's far away from narrative as one could get. This is an easy adjustment to make, but at the very least, they should try to be getting representatives of previous award winners to present the current year's award. The show has been around for 10 years. Surely it can't be that hard, right? And if it is, the industry has an entire plethora of famous and well-known personalities in the space that could also better suit the award than some random celebrity cameo. It doesn't even need to be a dev. They could get any number of content creators as well to help out with the celebration that are also focused or based in that space and award. And I understand that some of these celebrity appearances can't be helped, as the reveals and ads with them are dictated by the companies putting out the content and paying for the ad spot itself. But it should be kept to an absolute minimum wherever possible. It should be a treat to see well-known actors dip their toes into the space, not an eye-rolling moment of get it over with. It's nice to see them, but we don't need to lean on them anymore. I don't think the problem was as bad this year as it has been in the past, but this has been absolutely exacerbated by the complete lack of respect devs got in general this year. I don't want to spend too much time on this again because it's been talked to death, but having 30 seconds for a victory speech under no circumstances is okay. It's so ridiculous the Game of the Year winner in Swen had to post an entire chain thread on Twitter after the fact with what he really wanted to say but couldn't due to the time constraints. The Game of the Year winner didn't have enough time to say thank you. Making a game is a massive undertaking of collaborative effort that even if you cut out thanks to the fans who played your game, which should never happen, it would take hours to go through everyone individually alone. A few minutes of praise should be the minimum. Give the winners their flowers, let them enjoy their moment, and allow them the space to celebrate. A big thing I keep seeing float around socials is a statement along the lines of, I only watch for the ads, or I don't care about the actual awards, I only want to see the trailers. And my response to that is simply, why? No, honestly, why? If you're watching just for the ads, you're objectively watching for the wrong reasons. And it's not because the awards are more important than the advertisements, but because you yourself are just wasting time. I didn't even bother watching the Game Awards this year, but despite not watching the show live, I knew about every update, trailer, world premiere, and ad presented in real time. Why? Because 5 seconds after it premiered on the show, a dozen news accounts posted the video in its entirety on Twitter. And then 30 seconds later, the actual creator of that game had the 4K YouTube video up with a tweet telling me exactly the same information. If you're watching for the ads, why sit through 3.5 hours of content to catch a few trailers when you could instead just enjoy your evening and then wait 30 minutes after the show to catch the half a dozen YouTube channels to post the every trailer and world premiere shown at the Game Awards video that cuts out all the fat you apparently don't care about? If you're watching just for the world premieres, watching the Game Awards is the least efficient way of doing so. I would understand if this were the mid-2000s where the shows aired on TV and social media was slightly less oppressive, but right now it makes no sense. And don't get me wrong, if you're watching for this reason, that's fine. At the end of the day, I'm a gamer too, and I used to watch this for the exact same reason myself. The Game Awards cleverly uses these big reveals and well-targeted ads as a wonderful hook to gain the casual audience's attention, and I think that's brilliant, but that's where it should end. At no point should the ads and reveals eclipse the importance of the awards. It's called the Game Awards, not Winter Games Fest, and until it is, I'll continue to treat it as such. Awards don't matter. No one should be making a game with the express intention of sweeping an award show, but I feel as though everyone should have the hope to be able to win one day. Winning an award has less to do with the prestige or the trophy, but the chance of creating an experience so wonderful that it touches the hearts and minds of the audience so well that it deserves to be celebrated. So why do the Game Awards matter? Why do I care? Why should anyone care? And that's very simple, because of this.
I see many amazing gamers. Hi, Ikumi Nakamura desu. Konnichiwa. Oh, I'm super excited to be on this stage again. Thank you. First, I want to say thank you to the unseen artist, Miteru. And you, thank you, all of you. Your support changed my life. Today, I am honored to introduce our first project, Kemuri.
Izumi Nakamura, an artist, a game developer, a mother, but most importantly, a gamer. The excitement she gave off for her team, her project, and her passion was so encompassing that it was impossible to not feel the same. And that's what I'll remember from these shows. Not who won or who didn't win insert title here, not what world premiere was shown during the show, not what celebrity made a surprise appearance throughout, not the random hundreds of Steam Decks given out, but the passion of a dev so excited to share their art with the people in the community that care. That's what will stick with me. On a night of celebration, the workhorse of the industry to be celebrated feels like they received the least when it should be the opposite. This show should be baiting in the casual gamer with trailers, ads, and giveaways, but should leave them inspired to embrace the industry even further. Devs should leave inspired by their peers with the mindset of one day I'll make a game as good as, not leaving it thinking the industry cares more about a touristing VA celebrity. But most importantly, the ones who made this year in gaming wonderful should have their moment to take a bow, thank those that got them there, and leave excited to create what's next. This year is one of the biggest years in gaming ever with releases. However, the losses ensued with layoff after layoffs made it feel like the stark opposite for those of us in the industry. And there wasn't even a passing mention of it at no point in the show, which made a ton of devs feel as if the show does not care about them. And if it doesn't, why even bother putting on the show in the first place? People make games, and if you don't care about that, well, you should.